Ever since I watched JoJo's, I never thought another show could come close to the insanity. And it's true, no show could ever. That was out of context, but even in context it doesn't make sense. So then there's Baki. So the basic story of the show is that Baki Hanma wants to fight his dad Yujiro Hanma for breaking his mother's back. No, not like that, literally. That's basically all you need to know about the show. Other than that, the events that take place are just fucking random. Like completely random, none of it makes sense. But that's why I love it so much. It's peak comedy and peak entertainment. It's so good. So there's 12 episodes. I'm gonna be watching from episode 1 to 6 and just finding the most insane funny moments. So sit back, relax, and try not to Oh yeah, before we jump into reacting, just keep in your mind, nobody has superpowers. In the Baki verse, no one has superpowers, okay? Keep that in your mind. Bro, the show hasn't started. It's the opening. What is this? So it starts off with the US Army being called on an African elephant. And the media is like, bro, why are you using the US Army on an elephant? And you're like, that shit huge, bro. He said 1,000 animals and 40 soldiers died, but they ended up not shooting a single shot at it. So the media is obviously confused. How did they beat this humongous elephant without firing a single shot? Yujiro Hanma is how they did it, Baki's dad, who ended up beating the giant elephant with his bare hands. And we ain't talking a normal sized elephant, we talking about some prehistoric dinosaur type level shit. And this is why Yujiro Hanma is known as the strongest creature. Notice how I said creature. He is the strongest thing on this planet. He does not take L's. He lives his life like a GTA character. So after Yujiro Hanma's done flexing, even though he's not even at the press conference, so we go over to some kid being bullied to fight Baki, and Baki's known as the strongest high schooler, so it's like, at this point, why not just take the beating from the bullies? Stupid. So the kid ends up challenging Baki, and Baki, being the grown man he is, decided, yes, I will fight this literal 7-year-old. So the kid's like, I'm a child, Baki's not gonna use 100% on me. And then Baki gets in like his full stance, ready to like fucking fight with this 10-year-old. And then the kid's like, yeah, I've taken some beatings in my time, but fuck, that would hurt. Where's his finger at? Nasty. Then some army guy comes in and he says, your dad has accepted your challenge to fight. Baki's like, it's weird that like you're like in my family business. Then the army guy says, bro, what? This is equivalent to 2 countries fighting. But no one has powers, by the way. It's just... So the kid and Baki are like bonding over being spanked or some shit, and then Baki's like, yo, do you wanna see me fight the air? He does so much damage to the air particles that the particles literally start fighting back. Nigga, what? The particles give him bruises. So after beating the air, the kids that were bullying the other kid come back and are like, how did you get bruises from shadowboxing? And Baki's like, I don't know, but you guys are eating food. The kids are like, what? I'm not eating food. And then Baki's like, no, you guys are munching. You're munching now. You're munching. And then the kids taste the food that they are not even eating. How are you such a menace that you force people to taste imaginary food? So after fighting the literal air and making kids taste food that they are not eating, he's like, yo kid, do you want to come back to my house? And the kid's like, yeah, complete stranger, yeah, I'll go to your house. So they make it to Baki's house and the kid's like, how strong is your dad? And Baki responds, cancer cells? Yes, cancer cells cannot beat him. Cancer. Baki's like, you know the air back there that I just fought? That was just a warm up. Instead, I want to fight a humongous praying mantis that I'm going to imagine. So Baki and the imaginary praying mantis start straight up brawling. So Baki beats the imaginary praying mantis, which is a big accomplishment for my boy. But somehow the US Army was notified of him beating an imaginary praying mantis in his house. And they tell Yujiro about this. And Yujiro just laughs. And then calls Baki a beta male for fighting imaginary people. We skip over to the US out of nowhere and the president is doing some like parade thingy. And then the live footage of the president gets cut and we find out Baki has kidnapped the president of the USA. The president's like, what? Do you know what you have done? And then Baki the menace starts naming off every crime he's done. And he's like, my only demand is to choose which prison I go to. And I want to go to the prison where the strongest person in the USA is, Biscuit Oliver. The president says, But what if I don't? Baki just looks at him and says, I'll add assault to my charges. The absolute savage. So Baki gets booked and the strongest man in the USA, Biscuit Oliver, says, okay, now you're here, come talk to me. Bro, they have no reason to be this caked up, damn. So we finally meet my boy, Biscuit Oliver. They call him Unchained because he gets so much luxury in the prison, he can literally do anything he wants. In fact, they treat it like it's a hotel for him. He has a small mansion inside the prison. They do all of that because they fear him and he sometimes helps them out. Baki says he wants to fight him to practice for his dad, but Oliver's like, nah. I have 4,000 inmates coming after my head, you have to get in line, bitch. Baki's like, bet, and then he just throws a punch at him. And Oliver literally takes like no damage, man. It's insane. Oliver basically says he's soft and says that he has to meet number 2. So Baki goes to his cell and he meets Iron Mike, which is basically Mike Tyson. And he's like, Mike Tyson, you're strong as fuck. Are you number 2? And Mike looks him dead in the eyes and said, nigga, I am not even in the top 10. We find out number 2 is called Mr. Second. So after Baki finds out he's kinda outclassed, he looks behind him to see this One Piece villain looking motherfucker. Baki asks the suspicious villainous looking guy, are you Mr. Second? And then the guy turns and opens the broom closet, letting out the true Mr. Second. Then they face off and Baki asks, if I beat you, will I be the new Mr. Second? And that nigga dead house says, it's a good day to die. So Mr. Second basically gets the same treatment as Biscuit Oliver, except they don't give him his own mansion, but they just let him do whatever the fuck he wants. So some idiot decides to challenge Mr. Second, and Mr. Second's like, you used to be a sumo wrestler, so let's go do sumo. This part wasn't even fun to watch, it was just brutal. Fucking destroys his eardrums and his sense of balance, and then just watches him collapse to the ground. Because the guards act like they can't see whatever Mr. Second does, when he leaves the match, they end up just shooting the guy in the back of the head, because he was there alone. So we find out Mr. Second is the president of a small country, and the president of the USA wanted control over that country. So Mr. Second kidnapped his family. Look at the fear in her eyes. After being a menace, he then chooses to go to prison to defeat the USA's strongest fighter, so it's easier to get independence from them. Out of the complete blue, the boxing federation send 3 guys after Mike Tyson because they don't want somebody that's been in jail to be the champion. And these guys are creepy as fuck. So they all pull up on him, and before beating his ass, they talk about the joys of jumping a nigga. They jumped him so badly, the creator must hate Mike Tyson. So mid-jumping, Mr. Second shows up and rolls in. It's getting tasty, boys. Second isn't called Second because he's the second strongest in the prison. He named himself Mr. Second because he said that he's gonna be the second person controlling the prison once he beats the fuck out of Oliver. So they get Second in the perfect triangle formation. So what do you guys think he does next? Does he A, dodge the punch and then counterattack? Does he B, take the punch and then lie on the ground face down? C, does he piss on all of them? Or D, does he do something other than that? Good job to the people that said C, he pisses on them. So Mr. Second starts to get serious and the air around him just starts spinning. So the creepy motherfuckers are like, do you know what's better than a triangle? A pyramid. So they go for their next attack and oh my god, this is fucked. Call the man Saitama because he kills him in one punch and then sends him up, but not to heaven, but to see his brother as he dies. So after that massacre, the other 2 are pissing themselves. Literally. The menace made him leave his own brother. And then Mike Tyson pulls up and thanks him, but there's no blood on him, so was he just cleaning his face? Things chill out a small bit and they go back to their cells, and then fucking Biscuit Oliver bursts in. They end up talking about their fight to settle who's truly number 1, and they basically set the date for tomorrow. And things start to heat up a small bit, and then Baki decides to get in the middle of it. I have never ever in my life thought of doing something so suicidal. So my boy obviously goes sleep. The fight with Mr. Second and Biscuit Oliver is next episode. Bro, I don't know what Baki was thinking getting in the middle of the fucking 2 strongest people in the prison. But I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking that you should like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. That was episode 1 to 6, and I'm gonna watch the last 6 episodes and then make another video. So subscribe for part 2. Thanks for watching.